Hey everyone, I'm back with another EverQuest video. One of the things that makes EverQuest a great game that still holds up to this day is its lore. The world of Norrath has many great characters and zones, and behind many of those characters and zones are great stories. Today I want to share with you one of my favorites. This is the story of Kithicor. Most EverQuest players are familiar with the zone Kithicor Forest. It lies between the Common Lands and High Pass, with Rivervale sitting on its north border. When EverQuest first released, this was just a normal lower-level zone. It was perhaps a bit on the spooky side because of its dense tree cover that blocks out the sky, but there was nothing particularly special or unsettling about it. Everyone knows what happened next. 9 months into the game, the Plane of Hate opened up, and when it did, Kithicor Forest changed in a frightening way. At night, all of the normal mobs that populated the zone disappeared and were replaced by high-level undead who would kill anyone that tried to travel through the zone at night. But not everyone knows how or why this happened, and this is that story. The story begins with a lowly pit-claw goblin miner named Nurgle. Nurgle was one of the miners that worked below High Pass Hold, toiling away in the mines. The goblins were known by the humans of High Pass to be effective miners, but too stupid to know the value of what they dug up, so they were permitted to dig up gold and gems and sell them to the humans for a fraction of what it was worth. But not all the goblins were as stupid as they thought. Some were just smart enough to know that if they found something really rare, the Teardal, the Dark Elves, would pay well for it. But it came at a risk. The Teardal were ruthless and cared little for the goblins of the mine, and would on occasion choose to kill them rather than pay. One day, the goblin Nurgle happened across a glowing blue stone in the mine. A stone so hard that his pick could not even scratch it. He chipped it out of the rock and quickly hid it in his pouch. Surely this was something special, and he did not want to risk it being stolen by the other goblins. He took it immediately to the person he knew he could get the best price from, the Dark Elf Ambassador Tyranna Slill. Tyranna took the stone from Nurgle and examined it closely. She channeled an identification spell into it, and suddenly it gave off a blue flash, burning her and causing her to jump back from it. This was no mundane ore that Nurgle had pulled from the mine. This was something special. This would be a perfect excuse to get away from the filthy human city at High Pass and return to Neiriak to show to her superiors. Before she left, she gave Nurgle the most fitting reward she could think of for a goblin. Death. Tyranna and her group of orc bodyguards that she hired from the Shralak clan of Kithicor made the journey back home to Neiriak, killing anyone who got in their way, and then delivered the stone to Larthik Kashin. He took the stone from her and looked it over before harshly ordering her back to High Pass. Tyranna protested, not wanting to return to live amongst the humans, but Larthik reminded her of her place outside of the noble families, and gave her a piece of parchment with her orders and left with the stone. On her way back to High Pass, Tyranna and her bodyguards were ambushed by wood elves who had grown suspicious after seeing her leave High Pass days earlier in such a rush, and had assumed the Teardal were planning something. After a short battle, Tyranna was killed, and when the wood elves searched her body, their suspicions were confirmed. The parchment Tyranna was carrying confirmed that the Teardal had planned to take High Pass for themselves. War was at hand. Felin and the Wood Elf returned to High Pass to meet with Carson McCabe of High Pass and Lord Tethys the High Elf to plan a defense. Word was sent immediately to all the High Pass allies requesting aid in its defense. Antonius Bale would not send help from Kinos for fear of rival factions within the city attempting to take over in his absence. Freeport also would not help for similar reasons. The humans of Antonica were all too busy fighting amongst themselves to defend High Pass from the looming Dark Elf attack. The dwarves and erudites also refused to send help. All seemed lost until Galeth Verideth, High Elf Paladin of Tunair, stepped forward to pledge the support of the High Elves. At his side stood his paladin apprentice, Theriona Vi. Over the days leading up to the attack, adventurers from all over Antonica streamed to the city, ready and willing to help in its defense. It was starting to look like they actually stood a chance. As the people of High Pass prepared for war, the Dark Elves did as well. The daughter of Inaruk herself, Lannis Tevil, alongside mentor Larthik Kashin, were set to lead an army of Tairdal into Kithicor Forest on their way to take High Pass. As the main Tairdal army advanced through Kithicor, pockets of Dark Elf soldiers branched off to deal with any threats from the forces of the light. A platoon broke off to take the city of Rivervale, quickly subduing it, and using its resources to feed the army. Battles raged throughout Kithicor Forest as each side struggled to gain the upper hand. Lord Tethys, Galeth Verideth, and Firiona Vi stood at the entrance to High Pass, awaiting the approach of Larthik and Lannis Tevil. There, at the edge of Kithicor, the leaders of the two sides met in combat. Lannis Tevil faced off against Lord Tethys, and Larthik against Galeth. Tethys was the first to fall at the hands of Lannis, and Firiona Vi was quick to step in and stand in his place. Lannis Tevil attacked relentlessly, but Firiona Vi held her ground and waited for her chance as the Dark Elf wore herself down. It only took one small misstep on the part of Lannis Tevil for Firiona Vi to seize the opportunity and knock the Dark Elf to the ground. Lannis regained her composure just in time to deflect a killing blow, but the tide of battle had turned. Firiona attacked furiously, and Lannis Tevil was at her mercy. As she fought off the onslaught of attacks, she called out for Larthik to save her. Larthik knocked the aging Galeth to the ground and reached into his bags and pulled out Nurgle's stone. He held the glowing blue sphere up to the sky and cried out, "Inaruk! In the name of Lannis Tevil, I beseech you, attend her!" Power exploded from the stone. I'm going to quote the next part directly from the entry on Lore of Norrath because I just love this section. The screams of 10,000 damned souls filled the world as an immeasurable power opened a rift in the astral barrier. The hearts of even the most evil and twisted creatures in Norrath were suddenly filled with dread and fear from the terrible miasma of evil that spewed forth from the plane of hate. Larthik's borrowed body was encased in a pillar of fire emanating from the orb, as the energies of Inaruk were unleashed. Nothing can withstand the presence of a god, and Larthik's body was quickly torn apart from the terrible power. Lannis tossed her head and laughed throatily. She shouted out welcome to the power of Inaruk. Her body glowed with crimson flame as she was drawn upward by the Prince of Hate, her father. The Child of Hate disappeared into the swirling rift in the sky as the remains of Larthik crumpled to the ground. All Firiona Vi could do was watch as Lannis Tevil was sucked through the stone into the plane of hate. She then grabbed Galeth and turned to flee. Soon after they ran, the presence of Inaruk sucked the life from every living thing in Kithicor Forest, leaving nothing but silence. High Pass was safe, a hollow victory considering the cost. What remained of the Dark Elf army retreated to Neriak, and Kithicor Forest was left cursed. From that day forward, the veil between the mortal realm and the plane of hate was weakened, and at the point where the connection between the realms was the strongest, the undead from the plane of hate would cross over to wander the woods every night. And that's why to this day it's dangerous to travel Kithicor Forest at night. Thanks for listening. I got most of the lore that I used as a reference for this video from the site Lore of Norrath. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go check it out. They have a lot of cool stuff there. The lore that I used specifically in this video was all posted by a user named Michael in 2009 in a series of posts called Bloody Kithicor. I believe he was quoting from a source in those posts, but I was not able to find that original source. If someone knows the original source for this story, please let me know in the comments. I really want to find it. Talk to you next time.